Samsung Galaxy S23 1 year later. So if you watched Samsung's Unpacked event or even seen any highlights about it, you'd know that Samsung dropped the S23 Ultra from the main lineup and dropped the S23 Plus, but they kept around the Galaxy S23 at a reduction in price point of $699. It was originally $799, and with extra discounts, this is going to be one of the cheapest Samsungs you'll be able to get that feels premium over this coming year. And I've had it for nearly a year already, so I want to discuss my thoughts with it now and what I think about it now that the S24 has arrived. And if you're wondering my thoughts on the S24 and S24 Ultra, I have already pre-ordered them, so I'll cover that soon, so be subscribed for the reviews and comparisons on that. Let's dive in. So one of the general themes I noticed from Unpacked was that the S24 is nearly the same phone. I've already compared specs besides the AI, the Google Circle search, as well as, a little bit more screen to body ratio. It's nearly the exact same product. So if you wanted to save some cash, you can get the Galaxy S23. But in terms of the body, the build here, 168 grams, it's like a 1 gram difference from the S24. It has the same camera setup here in terms of the way it looks. It also does have a similar armor aluminum, although they went with a more cleaner look on the newer one, as well as armor aluminum 2, which they really pushed the scratch resistance, although I'm not sure I'm going to trust that until I see it in action without a screen protector, because every phone I basically ever get scratches very easily. So we'll have to see how that actually pans out. But this one still has IP68 dust and water resistance. And over the year, in terms of just the feel and the look, this has been one of the best phones I've ever held and owned. It's just a really nice size. It just feels like you have enough screen, but it's super comfortable to hold. It was a very good product here for an everyday phone in the Galaxy S23. So 1 year later, if you're looking to save a buck, I definitely recommend it, especially if those AI features on the newer one really didn't impress you. And the Galaxy S23 still has a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy, which is still a CPU that's going to be coming out in certain phones this year. It's not slow or anything, so you're going to see certain phones still get the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Although if you want the 8 Gen 3, you'll have to go S24. Now in terms of the display, I've always really liked the S23 because of the thin bezels here, as well as the punch hole being quite small. Although it looks like the bezels did reduce even more on the S24, this is still very good and still better than some other phones out there. So it's still a really solid option here if you want to, read articles or anything like that. It's still very good. Although not chunky whatsoever, the newer one might seem like it has a little bit less bezel than the Galaxy S23 here. Also, I find that even when you're watching video on here or you go into landscape, it doesn't really cut in the content too much. It seems to have enough space to go ahead and do that as well. So let's go ahead and watch one of my videos here. Let's go here and we'll watch the recent one.
So what is up, guys? Nick here.
And you'll see, even though this is a small screen, it just feels like you have a lot of nice viewing space, and it's very enjoyable to watch content on here. So that's quite nice. I always really liked how they have this. Let's go over here to settings. You scroll down here to display. They have the Team Natural or the Team Vivid mode right here. I'm on Vivid right now, but you can really tweak it quite easily and quite nice. You also have Eye Comfort Shield, which is adaptive, and Motion Smoothness, which you could change. Not only that, you have the ability to tweak extra brightness. So one of the biggest complaints is brightness on a lot of phones, but not with this one. Although the Galaxy S24 is going to peak out even higher than this one, which is insane to say because this was already ridiculously bright. So the display panel on here, still a definite go. It's already been kind of like matured at this point. Already was at like some of the best Samsung could do. So this is still a really great deal here for the display. So when it comes to software, we're already on One UI 6 here. You are going to get One UI 6.1 on the next version. This has like 5 years of updates. The next version has 7. So you're going to get even more on the next version. But at the same time, they're not even nearly close to done updating this phone. You're going to get 6.1, you're going to get 7, you're going to get 8. You have plenty of updates to come on the Galaxy S23 here. Overall, the software is basically, Samsung through and through with all their feature set, their motions and gestures, the tons of labs features that they have available for a lot of these phones. And it just feels like you never really get too bored of the phone. Although, there are phones out there that are a little bit more fresh and new these days, like some of these gaming phones and some, other brands are kind of fun to play with too. Samsung has been around for a while. You still have really great theming options. You still have great customization options, really great, edge panels, split screen modes, pop view modes. The whole entire phone just is a really feature rich device, even though it fits in the palm of your hand. In addition to that, the DeX mode on here really is insane that you have this on a pocketable smartphone, unlike the Galaxy S23. So the updates haven't been as fast as what I see typically on an iPhone, but the Galaxy S23 software has been quite good to use. And with the One UI latest update, the animations look so good as well. So I really have to say that they're starting to nail it when it comes to software on their phones. That was an issue with Samsung phones for a very long time, but doesn't seem to be the case too much anymore. When it comes to performance, it really doesn't matter what you do. This thing doesn't skip a beat. It still performs like it did day one when I first got it. As a matter of fact, I would say with the recent updates to One UI, it actually performs a little better. And the cool thing about this is it doesn't overheat. It doesn't get any type of, hot, nothing like that. And they're said to be even better with the heat on the next versions. But that's probably going to be more for the Galaxy S24 Ultra. But this phone was able to play most games and do most tasks without getting uncomfortably warm. So this was really such a great year for Samsung when it comes to fixing like heat management issues, fixing battery life. This was just an all-arounder. And I got to tell you, the performance right now, I don't even think, if you actually paid attention to the presentation yesterday, they didn't really talk much about performance. They really did not. They barely even mention the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. All they were talking about was AI this, AI that, and the camera this, the camera that. They didn't really even mention performance, as if they're saying performance is good enough now. We don't really need to talk about that no more. And I would tend to agree. It's pretty much up there, although I still like to see in speed this 8 Gen 3 versus the prior versions and stuff like that. So yeah, you can just rest assured if you pick this up, even though they have an 8 Gen 3 coming out, you're not going to be behind in performance. It's a boss. So this does have an SD card slot. Psych, it has a SIM card slot. So if you were looking for SD card slot, none of the S23 models have that. The storage tops out at 256, so if you wanted more, that's the only one of the cons of this phone. It tops out at 256 gig. Some regions you might be able to get it for 512, but I didn't see it here. And the overall phone itself still doesn't have, the ability not to expand storage would have been like perfect for this phone. But the RAM on here, 8 gigs, so it's not going to be your 12 gigabytes of RAM. So if you want top level RAM, this is also not for you either. When it comes to the cameras, the triple camera setup on here was really quite good on this phone. It has the 3 times right here, and then you can go the ultra wide right there. Let's go ahead and take that photo. You can also go 30 times zoom, and you could switch between the 50 megapixel. All the settings are right here in camera. The newer phone has a better nightography mode, that's for sure. But over here you have the pro mode, portrait modes. You do have the ability to do action videos on here. Super Steady it's called on Samsung, and you go over here to the ability to change through video. You can go up to 8K video, which is a really nice touch for a phone this size. Seems ridiculous that you have that level of control on a phone this size. So Samsung's efforts to go out of the camera market and put them into their phones mostly has really benefited you as a consumer here, because they were doing cameras before, but then they just focused their efforts on mobile cameras, and now you have all these great features in here. Food modes, expert raw, single take, pro video, director's view. I mean, the list goes on, and you could move them around as well. So a incredible camera still here you're getting for the S23. Also, the front-facing camera is also very good, pretty solid. In addition to that, if we go to the video, you have the ability to go UHD 60 video on here. You can flick through the cameras really easily like that as well. So all around, I'm super happy a year later with this. It's like it didn't age at all. Seriously, I would buy this right now all over again for camera. It's great. When it comes to battery life, while this is not the S24 Ultra, S23 Ultra, the Plus model, it's still pretty good for a smaller phone. This is like much better than the S22 was. 3,900 milliamp hour. They went to 4,000 on the S24. But still, an all-day phone with regular usage, not heavy usage. but regular usage, your S23 will make it the full day quite easily. So I do like to recommend this for a smaller phone with solid battery life. It really does have it, and that's mostly due to the efficiency of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 in here, as well as being designed for Galaxy, along with their software optimizations. In addition to that, if you do turn off the display mode for 120 hertz, you'll get even further battery. But Samsung has always had a nice power saving option here that allows you to really kind of customize how you want to tweak your power saving here. To get even more, like limit the CPU speed, which definitely slows the phone down a little bit, turning off always on display. And you can kind of pick the ones you want and turn off the ones you don't want, depending on what you want to do to save battery. But overall, pretty quick charging, nothing like a OnePlus phone in terms of speed of charging, but wireless and fast charging through the cable. It's better than iPhone, but not faster than a OnePlus phone to charge. Battery life's solid though for the size of this phone for sure. Audio quality on this phone was actually quite good, quite loud. The only issue I found with it is that at the max volume, it doesn't sound as good, especially with Dolby Atmos on as some other phones out there. It just sounds a little bit less crispy, but it's very loud. So if you want a loud speaker, this is very good. And that translates to phone calls as well. Phone call quality, superb. Really good reception strength on this phone over the year. It just never really had an issue. And all Samsung phones have really good 5G performance. So these phones are solid as actual phones, even though they look super premium, super pretty. They're amazing in terms of the actual phone itself. Really good reception strength and messaging, goes through pretty much everywhere. I find my iPhones, some of the older ones, not so much the current ones, but these just had signal strength pretty much everywhere. So thumbs up there on the Samsung. So the Galaxy S24 is now available, but should you buy yourself a Galaxy S23 at this ridiculously decent price now? I mean, it's going to be even less in certain places. Used model is going to be super cheap by comparison. And I would say absolutely. You really have to want those AI features on the S24. If you really want those, then of course go with that one. If you have an S23, you can get a big trade-in discount and get the new one for like $200. So it's a really good deal as well. But the S23 is going to hold on just fine. This is the thing. You don't get a ton of money back unless you're trading for another Samsung phone. But if you just wait a little bit, a yesteryear Samsung is so good, yet so cheap, that it's almost like you're getting a top-tier phone for a budget price if you just have a little bit of patience. And that's kind of what's going to happen here with the S23, especially if you don't buy it retail price from Samsung. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Let me know if you're picking up an S23 now that the S24 has launched, or if you're just over this series in general. Again, I already ordered the S24, so stay tuned for that. I want to give one of my final reviews on the S23 though. It's been a great phone. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.